Okay, I know I haven't been able to shut up about the iPhone 17 recently, but when I bought this, I do think it was the perfect phone for me out of the available choices I had. But this video is about what can actually be added to make it the perfect phone in general. The jump from the iPhone 16 to the 17 was like one of the biggest ones in a while at least. So I guess in a way, this video is my iPhone 18 wish list of what else they can add to make it like an equally large improvement. Starting off, I'll just get the only things in this video out of the way that I think should be taken from the Pro lineup and added to the base phones. And that has to do with cameras, but not exactly just copy and pasting all the Pro cameras right onto the base model. The first thing that I at least want to be added is actually a software aspect, and that is Apple log footage, which I get it is like a Pro video feature, and maybe it should be saved for only the Pro phone lineup, but I don't think it's that big of an ask. It's Apple log. I'm not asking for Apple raw. I know for some popular Android phones in like the $800 to $900 range, they do have features available, I think third-party apps, but you can record in log or raw. But that is one of those just small features that does make iPhone footage look significantly better. So like, I'm sure this phone is already capable of recording an Apple log. Unlock it next year, maybe, please. And the next thing is the hardware aspect. Now, I think they should stick with 2 cameras. Having all 3 should be a Pro feature, but I would love to see a telephoto. Now, I think I have mentioned this before in a video. I think actually some people even agreed with me, but I would happily get rid of the ultra wide for a telephoto. I just think it's more usable. Or maybe they could add a telephoto on here, but it'd just be like a smaller sensor version, so it's a little bit cheaper. Although I do think that the digital 2x zoom that you get on the iPhone 17 is completely usable, and I do use that a lot. Having like a 4x optimal, or not optimal, optical zoom would be optimal. That would be pretty nice. And again, kind of like log, I do think that is like a Pro feature, so I understand if they wouldn't do that. But phones like Google Pixels, I think Samsung Galaxies, and I'm sure plenty of others have that on their phones that are in the same price range as a 17. But this next one is something that's never been on an iPhone, but has been on other Apple devices, and I think is perfectly achievable. And I like this thing so much on my MacBook that I got the closest thing I could on my phone, and that is an anti-reflective or nano texture display. And don't get me wrong, my iPhone matte screen protector I do love, but there is a clear difference between something like a screen protector that's anti-reflective or something like nano texture, where the screen protector just goes over your screen. Nano texture is like etched into the display. So like on my phone, it kind of softens out the display and I'm not taking advantage of the full OLED, while with nano texture, there's far more detail and sharpness and contrast. But even on a MacBook with nano texture, you're still getting less contrast and less, deep blacks than you're getting with like a glossy non-nano texture display. So I think it makes perfect sense, like on MacBooks and iPads, to just offer nano texture as a $50 to $100 upgradable option. Apple might like this one the most because it's yet another upgrade option for them to take more money from me. Recently though, I actually had the chance to try out a Google Pixel 10 Pro. I will be making a video on that. It might take a little bit before it comes out. So, subscribe if you want to see my first Android experience ever. But I'll spoil one small feature that I actually ended up loving, and that was the Touch ID on the screen. I love the idea of having both Face ID and Touch ID, so I think they should definitely add that in the future, whether it's exactly on screen like the Pixel was, even if it's just like on the back Apple logo right there, or they make the action button have a little fingerprint reader. They can figure it out. Like sometimes I'm just holding my phone at a certain angle or in a certain environment where Face ID just can't recognize my face, so having something like Touch ID in addition to it, that would just be pretty amazing, and I think genuinely useful for a lot of people too. Okay, this next one is what I've seen so many times in comments of not only my videos, but other videos, and I think it just makes sense to offer it as an option. The base iPhone 17 has a 6.3-inch screen. If I wanted something a little bit bigger, I'd have to get the Air, which is 0.2 inches bigger, and $200 more, also lacking a few features that I would like to have. Or I'd have to get the Pro Max, which is like $400 more, but it does have a significantly bigger screen. But if I wanted a smaller screen, I'm out of luck. I'd have to go back to the iPhone mini 13. So I just think offering a 17 Plus and a 17 mini, it would just keep everyone happy here. I think for the Plus, you keep the same exact internals, same camera, same everything as the base model 17, and instead a 6.7 or 6.9 inch screen. And for the mini, I don't exactly know what they would have to do. Maybe they just make it a little thicker to have a better battery. I don't know if you could keep the same exact internals, but decent battery, decent performance, and that smaller screen, most importantly, would definitely keep that audience happy. I've never seen a more loyal audience than people who like their iPhone minis. Like, the reason they probably canceled it is because there's not that many people who buy it, but I can guarantee you, the people that do, they would definitely appreciate it coming back. And I am so positive that there are so many people that specifically buy the Pro Max just for the bigger screen. So I think offering something like a 17 Plus would kind of just be the perfect in-between option. But if they offered a 17 Plus or mini, I don't know if I'd actually get either of them. I kind of think 6.3 inches is like the perfect phone screen size, but having the options would be nice. Okay, now for the next two here, this is definitely where my ambitious and likely undereducated brain it's gonna shine. This is probably not logistically possible. I don't know. Even if it was, Apple is probably never gonna do it. As I've mentioned, I'm someone that loves the original physical ringer switch, and I'm also someone that uses the current action button as the ringer. But hear me out. What if the action button was still a button, but you could also move it like a switch? It'd definitely have to be smaller of a button and made firm enough so if you're pressing down on it for the action button settings, you're not accidentally flipping it back and forth for like the ringer settings. But think about it, you can press it down for whatever custom action button option you want and still be able to flip it back and forth for the ringer. And that goes into my next overly ambitious idea, which isn't in addition to that. This would be more like an alternative to that. I don't think having both would really be necessary. But if you look here, there's the volume switches and then the action button. And then on this side is the on and off button and nothing. Yep, you guessed it right. I am suggesting a second action button symmetrically across from the normal one. Now, I do get that both of these ideas are pretty far out there, but listen, on the action button now and only having one, people are just gonna use it for the feature they use the most. Again, for me, that's the ringer. But with the second one, that's where the floodgates open. You can use it for another usable tool like the flashlight, or you could just get really creative with it. I think I would use it for something like opening my to-do list. And Apple is probably never gonna add any of this. I don't think they're bold enough for my game-changing ideas, but I think it'd be cool to have two action buttons. Probably even cooler to have the half action button, half ringer toggle switch, kind of like a hybrid there. But I guess back into the real world here, Siri needs to upgrade your game. Shut, I wasn't talking to you. Actually, I was. Yeah, upgrade your game. Like, I'll admit, it's great for setting reminders, setting alarms or timers, even occasionally sending a text. But where I use any kind of AI the most is for getting information about something. Like, unless if it's like the score of like a football or basketball game, if I ask Siri a question, it gives me a list of articles. I don't want options, I want answers. Like, it's to the point where it's honestly just easier for me, and it's barely even an inconvenience to just open Chrome and search it there and use Gemini AI overview, and then I get my answers just fine. But it's the idea that if you want me using Siri for everything and, you know, stealing my information and interests that way, you need to make it able to answer my question as easily as like Google Gemini. I'm hoping in a year I'll make a video called I Told You So, and some of these things are added to the iPhone 18. And I do realize that although these aren't necessarily unrealistic, they're maybe just not reasonable for Apple to add. But if Tim Cook really locked in, they could add one, maybe two of these things. I don't know, I'd be happy with that. Let me know what you would want to see out of the next generation of iPhones, presumably the iPhone 18s, and what would really make them perfect for you. But thank you for watching, and feel free to subscribe for more.